what an American, what a great story. Um, Man, he was born in South Carolina the same year my mother was. Rest in peace. In 1940, and I think just by today's standards, um, in short attention spans, he doesn't get the credit he deserves for the positive impact he made on the Democratic Party, on politics in general. And I mean, he was learning under the master, Martin Luther King Jr. And just he there's something about if you haven't had the pleasure of experiencing Jesse Jackson in your lifetime because you're lucky enough to be much younger than I am, or otherwise, the two speeches that he gave in defeat at the at the at the convention in '84 and '88 are arguably two of the most incredible speeches ever given in that context. Not surprising. This is one of the greatest orators of our the last century, easily, easily. He just had a gift, a God given gift, and he knew how to use it. He knew how to we use weaponize, because usually we're talking about something that your current president is doing um, with information or news or otherwise. But Jesse could weaponize the hell out of the English language to get his points across in a way that very few human beings could do. He and kids that YouTube thing, it's all there for you, and it's really it's magnificent. Comparing him to because we don't, we have Mr. Tallarico, who we featured in the feed, and everybody's aware of the fact that the Stephen Colbert CBS better not put Tallarico on the air, but I'm going to put Tallarico on the air. And he is, Mr. Tallarico, a very young man. He is still studying to become an ordained minister, as I understand it, but earnestly, and has the proverbial gift of gab. And there have been, Al Sharpton. Love him, and I won't say hate him because we're not doing hate. But some people uh, have some opinions about Al that are not 100% favorable, maybe fairly unfairly, to Warner Broadley, but gifted speaker from that men of a certain time. Dr. King, unsurpassed. And I'm not, this is not a celebrate only charismatic African American gentleman, but a certain Barack Obama, fairly handy around the old microphone. I'll put it out there. I will overstep my bounds to go way out on a limb. Talented speaker, Mr. Obama. So Jesse Jackson, as he came up, he when did they know? So when Jesse was about 9 in his local church, he was allowed to make a presentation on a Sunday, and his hometown team were so blown away by his natural gifts that they took up a little collection and sent him to a contest, I think, up in North Carolina, I think it was, and equally or more impressive there. And he held a regular spot as a preteen in his church, and he had that thing. He had the that God given talent, and a few pluses, minuses, bumps on the road in his educational journey. And when he finally got to college and got his full bodies, he was the quarterback of the team and a talented speaker, and didn't jump right into the community organizing stage of his life right away. He was trying to be a serious student, but it was must have been a calling to him because he answered the call, and has been going at light speed ever since. Dr. King, I guess not. Dr. King was maybe uh, a decade older than Jesse, and was his hero and inspiration as Dr. King was for so many. And they worked together, and eventually with Breadbasket, which was a community organizing. It really, the thing that you remember, the selfless, mm, the sacrifices that Jackson made for the nation. He was a man of God. He was not without a few errors along the way, but it was about my favorite subject, of course, collective action, and it was a different version of that at different stages of his life. But when it went from the breadbasket, and then he went on when after Dr. King's death, and Ralph Abernathy and Jackson were butting heads a little bit on who was going to be the visionary in Dr. King's absence. Both perfectly qualified men to take the mantle, but Jesse went off and founded Push, which was his opposite number to Breadbasket, and feeding the hungry, working with the poor. But where Jesse's specific, excuse me, Reverend Jackson's, it's not my, it's my friend. He's my inspiration. He was not my friend. Excuse me. Uh, that Reverend Jackson, he had the communication skills. What that when he was given Chicago by Dr. King, what he did was he connected with local businesses and cajoled or shamed them with expert precision to get more opportunities for African Americans working and living in the Chicagoland area. For instance, A&P, which is a supermarket chain of days gone by, I believe. I don't know if there are any more, but I used to shop in an A&P in the early '70s in Massachusetts. And then, then it was, Publix and other brands like that, Super Duper, Stop and Shop and all. But he went to A&P and said, I want to see, how I want to see your books. And if you don't kind of give me a seat at the table and help me to bring more opportunity to this large part of the city's population who are spending their money in your stores, then we're going to have a problem. Yeah. So he will win concessions that say, we will hire each year more than 800 African American workers for our local stores, and he'd hold them to it, or they'd hear about it. And you didn't want to get on the wrong side of Reverend Jackson because he was he was he could be your best advocate and your worst nightmare because he was not any man's fool, and he was courageous, like Dr. King himself was. One, just in the fair and balanced sense, the one item that I was reminded of, that if you would argue that there was an episode that was an indignity, perhaps, in the passing of Dr. King. Um, Reverend Jackson was at the Lorraine in Memphis, I think one floor down with Abernathy when Dr. King was assassinated. And then somewhere, somehow, in the ruckus that followed, the blood of Dr. King was transferred onto the clothing of Reverend Jackson, and he used that symbol, if you will, to suggest that he was more intimately involved in the very final minutes of Dr. King's life than he actually was. I only say that because it's a it's a fact. It's well reported. Um, and he Jesse Jackson was hungry for power and influence. What great leader is not a little bit hungry for power and influence? It goes with the gig. So that was something that reportedly, um, excuse me, that reportedly resulted in friction over a long period of time between Dr. King's family and Reverend Jackson. But so he moved on and leading Chicago powerful, and then he was the guy. He was the civil rights leader, the African American civil rights leader that was the man. He There were others. He he followed Dr. King's teachings in nonviolent protest, and there were some like the Black Panther Party, right, that were very prominent initially out of Oakland, but then in Chicago as well. And and he would work with these groups while their posture was perhaps a little more aggressive and forward leaning than the teachings of Dr. King and the behavior and teachings of Reverend Jackson. So that was it wasn't, you know, tension. I don't know, it wasn't there. These were people that had perhaps the same goal, but thought of different ways to get there. But in Chicago politics, anybody that lived in Chicago or it's Mayor Daley ran that town for decades, and he was there, and so when Jesse Jackson wanted to get something, excuse me, done in Chicago, there was only one man to ask because there's one man. It's like, you want to get something done anywhere in the world today, you call Vladimir Putin. Uh, Mayor Daley had such immense power with all the right people and all the wrong people. He, was, when you hear about the machine, the political machine, old New York, long before the, boss tweet, and just the political machine that if you wanted to get anything done, you wanted to get a job, you wanted influence, you wanted whatever it was Mayor Daley, period. No other way to get there. So, excuse me. And Jesse Jackson recognized that and dealt effectively with Mayor Daley until he suffered that heart attack in 79 or maybe 70, 79, 80. And then all this time we're thinking about, Jesse Jackson made, as I mentioned with the convention speeches, he ran for the presidency twice. And there's always it made me dream a dream about your current president, that what if Donald Trump had just wanted, what if he didn't really want to be president? He just wanted the glitz, the glamour, the power. You know, uh, some say that the reason that Donald Trump got into the race was that all of the indignities that he suffered at the hands of the old money New York real estate crowd, plus uh, your friend of mine, Barack Hussein Obama, when he shredded Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, right? And his grievance level went to 11. He's like, "F this, I'm running," and he won. Wasn't expecting it then. Vladimir Putin was expecting it, but I think many people were shocked, and the fact that people actually went out after his first term and said, "You know what would be a really good idea? Let's vote for this guy to do it again because it'll go just as well." And now it's going worse, faster, harder, and and thanks. Yeah, but Reverend Jackson, he uh, uh, he paved the way. Right? Think about the aforementioned U.S. president who was born somewhere between Kenya, Uganda, Oahu, or so, wherever it was. Doesn't matter now. He could have been born on Mars with Elon's auntie, wherever he was born. He's magnificent. He's better than that. He's the man, the legend. Oh, but Jackson's, you can, the arguments about but for X, Y would never happen. It's hard to prove, right? Because there is a lot of things that happen between X and Y. Uh, would um, would we have had the first African American and Asian woman vice president, but for Jesse Jackson? I would say in both cases, with Barack Obama and Kamala Harris, um, that he laid the groundwork and made it a possibility because he truly, when I went from organization wise from the bread basket to push to it's then the Rainbow Coalition, right? That's Jesse Jackson's one of his uh, epitaphs will be on his epitaph will be the man that founded, you know, push the Coalition. He did not found that organization, but what he did was he repurposed it and ultimately combined it with the Rainbow Push Push Rainbow Coalition later, which continued on till I guess till this day, and it stayed focused on collective action, community organizing, feeding fighting poverty, finding employment opportunities for those that were that are the least fortunate in our society. But rainbow wasn't just a slogan. There were in the original Rainbow Coalition, there were groups. Um, there was Panthers. There were Latin groups from originally from Chicago, and there was sort of a I hate to say this, but a JD Vance component, the young patriots. So they were sort of a I don't hillbilly is not a disparaging term, but they were the Appalachian folks that poor Appalachian folks came to Chicago looking for opportunities. So you had, real country, real bohunks with African Americans and with the Latin community. So he was building consensus among groups that were under pressure in our society. And there's some great lessons that the Democratic Party can take, perhaps in with Reverend Jackson's passing, people will reconnect with the legacy of Reverend Jackson and analyze what are the parts of the Rainbow Coalition. I mean, I love the imagery of somehow respectfully repurposing the idea of that sort of coalition in these times because of the ethno-fascism on the other side, right? It's like, no, we don't want all white. We want really, really white. We want whiter than Christmas. We want just pure, and I can't say the Aryan race thing because of course the Aryans were not all white. Um, so uh, so much for you, you you damn Nazis. But yeah, so how do you incorporate the concept of the rainbow? Because it speaks to other marginalized communities, right? LGBTQ and and people from all colors of the rainbow, and uniting to everyone together with the spirit of collective action, which was the connective tissue on all of these groups. Right. That's that. Excuse me. The SD SDLC, SDIC, Southern Democracy uh, Legislative Center. The first organization that was handed off from Dr. King to Reverend Jackson. So that gave rise to Breadbasket, which moved on to push Rainbow Coalition. These are, all connected by a dedication to helping those who are less able to help themselves, and to create, not to it wasn't a it's the least it is the furthest thing from welfare state, which is what the mega folks like to scream about. What it is empowering those that are disadvantaged by historical systems that are put in place to keep a foot on the neck of people of color, of people from particular places, people of particular religions, yeah, economic classes. So it's not. It's what the old expression about it's not a handout. It's a hand up, right? It is. It is part and parcel of what the Supreme Court is continuing to dismantle in our country these days, and the Voting Rights Act and otherwise. That anything that has any vestiges of affirmative action is almost dead on arrival, thanks to your guy, Clarence Thomas, who, the rumor mill right now says that Alito's going to walk out first. I'm surprised that, and of course they could have this thing all game planned already, but with what might be a disastrous, he said, hopefully, midterm election performance for the old GOP, I would think, if I were DJT and the fascists, I would be at Clarence Thomas and Sammy Sam Alito's door tonight saying, "Can I help you pack? You're done. Bye." And they do the same dance. They announce their resignation at the end of the term, subject to the confirmation of the justice that will replace them. So, and they get all the bases are covered that way. And they do it with, we're not being run out of town while they're being run out of town, because they want to replace, these 80-year-old gentlemen with 45-and-a-half-year-old men and maybe a woman, um, to put extra juice into that radical right wing Supreme Court majority. So um, I would imagine. I mean, it's so there's no secrets here. 80-year-old guys can, excuse me, they can have a medical issue and tap out quickly, or they can just there's no strategically there's no argument for keeping them on through the midterm election if the goal is to maintain a hammerlock on an extremist conservative court. So we have all that fun to look forward to. But let's see. I'm going to just do a mental run over the exceptional career of Reverend Jackson, and yeah, I would if I had if we all had unlimited time. But those those two speeches from '84 and '88 that are available on YouTube and elsewhere, definitely at some point just at least get a flavor for the unique style and skill that the gentleman had. It's really a wonder to observe and to experience. And think about what we can learn from a a rainbow coalition in 2026 that's motivated by collective action. You know, putting there's got to be a whole lot more of putting the arm on business leaders, the businesses themselves, the leaders, and the government, the organization. What you and I, what can you and I do about Palantir, right? We don't have a subscription to Palantir. Maybe you do. I don't. But I haven't set up a security monitoring profile on relatives. Although there are some that aren't really relatives that it would be useful. But no, we can do what we can do. We can do the Disney, we can do the Amazon, we can do the Target or Target. We can take a look askance at Starbucks. We can reward Costco. We can we can look at all of the restaurant chains, hotel chains, retail chains, and make our own decisions based on our values. And if we consider, because all the information is out there, and if you need any help, I'm available. What the folks that have the pleasure of spending the money that we spend in their businesses, where you go to XYZ Burgers is your go-to place you take your kids every week on uh, Saturday after hockey, right, for lunch. If you find out that XYZ Burgers is offering 2-for-1 specials for ice agents in all of their stores. Now you say, yeah, but what about franchises? What about licensing agreements? What do the individual restaurant, the real estate owners, the people that run the business have to do with a national franchises decision to be cozy with the freaking fascists? Good question. I would argue that if you are an independent owner, you take advantage of the marketing of a national chain to allow your individual unit, whatever kind of business, to be more profitable because economies of scale and all of those things, that you can get more bang for your proverbial buck by joining a national advertising campaign, then that's one consideration of which company you affiliate yourself with. So you take the benefits of it, and you are certainly you'll certainly take the lumps too. And that's it's still a free country for a little while, little while longer. And if customers want to question, it's like I just saw 12 ICE agents walking out of there with free lunch coupons while they're masked without an identity badge leaving your restaurant. What the fuck is that? Fair question too. Your dollars, their dollars. The owner of the restaurant says, I was told that I don't have any choice by the home office. I have to keep my door open for any paying customer. Okay. So then sounds cumbersome, but it's just like your local representatives. It's going to say write a letter, but who does that? You contact, you go on that. There's that Google machine, and you find out who's in charge of the eastern region of XYZ Burgers, and you get 10 other parents that take the kids there after the hockey practice too. Say, all 10 of us are going to Chucky effing Cheese instead of Burger XYZ because that's disgraceful that you should support the destruction of our country. We want our voices heard. Here's our statement. You let us know if you're going to continue this policy, you lost our business, and we're going to share that information on social media aggressive to all of our friends and networks. Just to be clear, we're doing this because it's a free country. We understand you have the right to serve who you want to, also a free country. But can you kiss your kid goodnight? How are you going to answer a question from your child or grandchild about daddy, why those guys with masks and guns were sitting at the table? No, oversimplifying. Collective action. If you don't want to, you don't want to go, you don't want to go hats and bats in a restaurant parking lot. Understandable. Even if you have um, a hockey stick, whatever, that's fine. Make the purchasing decisions. Talked about it before. Unsubscribe as uh, Scott Galloway, the Prof G pod. He's got a bunch of pods. A lot of them are good. There's one with what's a Jessica Tarloff, the Raging Moderates, which I listen to occasionally. It's actually very good, and she's good. He's there. She's awesome and everything, as the kids might say. Yeah. So he's putting his name and using his platform to push this. It's unsubscribe and or something. That's the theme. Unsubscribe from these companies, and you use your power. It's not your full time job. Your full time job is your full time job. But sit down with your partner, with your kids. Hey, honey, kids, what can we do as a family to make an impact? Can we Hulu? Don't need Hulu. We can let that go. Okay, the kids are a little older. We don't need Disney Plus. Honey, I know it's, we get in that habit, as all of us did over COVID, of the convenience of last minute purchasing on Amazon, which means that you You can wait until everything runs out and then you order it and it's there 15 minutes later. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. We as a family said, no, we can plan a little further ahead and purchase elsewhere, such places as Costco, as previously mentioned, where they embrace DEI, embrace diversity in their workplace, and do all of the things that we as progressives would do if that were our operation. And they're vocal about it, and they do it in the face of the blowback that they get because they know in the long term that people are going to reward them now and stay with them later. And as we talk, if you don't have room for 700 rolls of toilet paper, then go next door and do 350 a piece, or something like that. Um, Reverend Jesse Jackson, we never had the pleasure of calling you President Jackson, but we have the honor of calling you one of the most consequential Democratic Party leaders or leaders of any persuasion in our country's history, because you're a man who was guided by values and morals and dedicated your life to see that those people in need in our communities, particularly in Chicago in your case, but all across the country, that you spent your entire life, even as the declining uh, age and excuse me, declining health. He Reverend Jackson, like my own dearly departed father, had some issues with Parkinson's, and my dad, it was very late onset and got severe, but only in the last short period of time. And for Reverend Jackson, it has been a deterioration over a longer period of time, but is he's a wonderful inspiration. So watch one of those speeches, both of the speeches, connect with some of his work. Um, and oh yes, I gave this out as a recommendation months ago. Uh, Abby Phillip, the CNN magnificent, magnificent in every possible way human being and journalist, wrote a wonderful book about this magnificent man. So, um, and the title of the book is escaping me right now. But guess what? There's only one Abby, and there's only one Reverend Jackson. So connect the dots, and it'll work out great for all three of you. Thank you, and wishing you a beautiful night. And we will very low winter sun and in northern Massachusetts and 30 degrees, and we will do it all again tomorrow at some point. Threatening to have the Kremlin crash the party, but this with uh, Robert Duvall passing along got me re-evaluating my list of all-time great male character actors in the history of cinema, and my personal favorites, because I'm older than you are Gene Hackman is always the first one that rolls off my tongue. Duvall is there, and then there's the debate about Dustin Hoffman. I put him in a different category. That's me. I don't work for Hollywood Reporter. I don't live in Hollywood, LA, or otherwise. I'm not in the movie business, but I always think of the way that a non-pro movie guy like myself that just appreciates them views folks like that. Character actors are a particular thing. Dustin has played many interesting characters in movies, but when I think of Hoffman, I think of leading man juice, right? Robert Redford wouldn't probably hold him out as one of the great character actors of all time, although he was a good actor, an exceptional director, and producer, and every other thing. But there are certain people that are, Al Pacino, yeah, leading man, leading actor, leading juice, right? And but then Gene Hackman just blows my mind in the way that he can just inhabit a character and sort of really possess it in a way that few other people can. And Duvall was the same way. So his passing at 95 or 94, they both, I think, Hackman died almost exactly a year ago from today. That when Duvall passed away, and they both lived to 94 years old. So God bless, and Hoffman is 88, 88, 89. Yeah. So there we go, Dustin. Say hello to Mrs. Robinson, and we will. I wish you a beautiful night. Whatever you can do in that restack, subscribe, whatever you do, department, share, and otherwise get it in front of the eyes of other people in your crew, so I can get those click things. It would be greatly appreciated, as it was yesterday, and as it will be tomorrow. And thank you very much.